So you need a headshot. And your first thought was probably, what is this going to cost? If you're currently shopping for a headshot, maybe you're an actor, real estate agent, you need it for your business, you're self-employed, you're an author, musician, or a lawyer, or one of many other professions that might require a headshot, stick around for a few minutes because I'm going to talk to you about what headshots cost and why you should expect to probably pay more than you're thinking, and why you should actually avoid photographers whose rates seem almost too good to be true. My name is Kevin Patrick Robbins. I'm a professional photographer. I've been at it for about 10 years, full-time professional for the last 8, and the core of my business is headshots. I also used to run a long-form improv theater company in Toronto. I built a portfolio of headshot photographs, photographing the dozens of actors and comedians in my company. After I shut down my company in Toronto, I had this portfolio of headshots, so I used that to transition into this career as a professional photographer. I personally spent 15 years being someone who needed headshot, and I've spent the past 10 photographing people who need headshots. So I think it's fair to say that when it comes to headshot photography, I know what I'm talking about from the perspective of someone who needs a headshot and the perspective of someone who photographs headshots as a majority of their commercial photography business. So let's start with why professional headshots cost what they cost. The primary reason is when you hire a professional photographer, it's a business, and businesses have business expenses. For photographers, a great deal of our expenses are cameras and lenses. They're thousands upon thousands of dollars. Lighting equipment, backdrops, studio rentals, whether we have our own studio or we have to rent one off every time we do a shoot. Having your own studio just isn't feasible for everyone. I shoot frequently in Toronto, but I don't live in Toronto, so it does not make sense for me to maintain a studio in Toronto. I also don't maintain a studio in the city where I live. We have computers for editing images, software for processing and editing the photos, travel expenses, gas, flights, automobiles, or automobile maintenance, fees for professional associations, fees for business services, accountants, bookkeepers, lawyers, etc. And another important expense is insurance. Basically, any type of service your typical business might have as an expense, we also have, because as professional photographers, we are running a business. Now, beyond the business expenses of running a photography business, we also need to make an income. This is our livelihood. So we have to make enough income after expenses to be able to live off of, to pay our rent, to pay our mortgage, food, family care, health care if you live in the US, pets. Basically, any expense that any typical average person might have, we have to cover those expenses in order to make a living doing what we do. Now, if you're in the market for headshots, I suspect you probably already know all this. People who tend to be in the market for headshots are people who are entrepreneurs, who are self-employed, are independent contractors, people who they themselves are running a business that is typically about them. So what else are you paying for? Primarily, you're paying for my experience as a professional photographer. If you're a business professional, a professional photographer will ask you what your brand requirements are, and they will know how to shoot to your brand requirements. If a photographer doesn't know how to shoot to your brand requirements or tries to convince you that you should get something other than what your brand demands, steer clear. For actors, does a photographer understand what casting directors need, what producers need, what directors need? Do they understand the market? The function they need to serve in Toronto is very different than the function that headshots need to serve in Los Angeles. And very different from what the needs are in New York, London, Melbourne, Sydney, Cape Town, wherever you are. The requirements of industry in that city are very different. So your photographer needs to know the market and isn't just shooting based on their own limitations. So you're also paying for a specific quality of work, a minimal base quality of work. Can they produce a high standard of work consistently every single time? If you take a look at their portfolio, it should be consistent, and you should be able to look at it and say, this person is going to make me look amazing. You're also paying for their ability to work with you. A lot of people, quite frankly, just are not good at communicating with their subjects, and that makes images look stiff. Can the photographer build a rapport. And a great way to find this out is to get them on the phone, talk to them. When you pay for a professional, you're also paying for professional levels of communication and service. How well do they communicate with you throughout the process, preparing for your session, leading up to it, after the session, when you're selecting your images, when they're delivering your images. Now, in all of this, one thing you may have noticed is that I have not mentioned time. You're not paying for a photographer's time. You're not paying for my time. You're paying for my experience, my expertise, and my ability to execute and deliver, whether it takes an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you're gonna get a consistent result. If you're with me for 30 seconds and that's all the time you have, you're going to get a great headshot. The only thing that you're going to get out of that extra time is a lot more options. Everything's gonna look great. You're just gonna have more images to choose from. So when it comes to price, time should never be considered a factor in your decision-making process. How long is your session? Well, this photographer's session is only 15 minutes, but this photographer's session is the same and is offering an hour. Doesn't matter. More time does not equal better quality. Better quality comes from knowledge and experience. So given everything that I've already mentioned, you probably already understand why you should be very wary of a photographer who's only charging $150, $200, $250, $300. Here in 2021, which it is, the summer of 2021 right now, you should be wary of any professional photographer who is charging less than $400 for your headshots. And that's not someone who probably has the experience to know that they need to charge more. People who've been doing this long enough know that they have to charge more in order to make a living. Less experienced photographers will often charge lower prices because they want to get the business and build up a portfolio. That's fine. People do that all the time and there's nothing wrong with it. You are getting what you pay for. But I do want to highlight a few red flags that you should look out for. And the first thing that I would put at the top of that list is portfolio. If you are looking at a photographer and their portfolio, their website, first of all, it should have a dedicated headshots section on their website. You should be able to clearly see that this is what this photographer does. If they do other work, that's fine. Often photographers have to shoot a lot of genres in order to make a living. So check the portfolio to make sure that they do this kind of work and it's not just portraits. You want to find someone who specializes in headshots so that they can give you exactly what you need. Secondly, professionals have insurance and they care about your safety and their safety and the safety of everyone who's on set, who's in the studio. You want to find out, are they properly insured? Does your business, if that photographer is coming in to your business location, does your business require them to have not only carry liability insurance, that your business is considered an additional insured? And can they get a certificate for that? If they're not properly insured, that is a big red flag. I would argue that a photographer who is not properly insured with business insurance, with liability insurance, they're not someone who is operating a professional business at a professional level. Every professional service should have insurance, should have their own business insurance. That is something that you're paying for. A level of professionalism, whether or not they're insured, is a very simple way to determine whether or not this is someone that you should be working with. Another red flag would be, are they stubborn about their style? This goes back to, can they execute your brand requirements? Or have they just figured out and learned, taken a workshop and learned one specific way to light and one specific way to shoot headshots? Or are they experienced enough and flexible enough to be able to shoot whatever your brand requirements demand? Inexperienced photographers will stick to the looks and the lighting that they know. If a photographer is trying to convince you that you should take the photos the way that they do it, and they're trying to explain to you why their way is better than what your brand requirements are, don't use them. Professional photographers are versatile enough and experienced enough to be able to give you the images you need. The next red flag would be price. Are they cheap? And if they're cheap, that's typically someone who is inexperienced. If the money doesn't matter to them, they're not a professional. Professionals run businesses, and money is important. Money is what pays our business expenses and our salaries. So what should you do if you only have $200 in your budget? I get it. I've been there. That's fine. Just be aware that quality, experience, and price tend to walk on the same side of the street. For me to rent a studio in Toronto for 2 hours is $150 plus HST. $200, I'm losing money. If you, as a professional, are serious about your image and your work, and you value your work as a professional, and you price your work according to your value, why would you expect anything less from any professional that you hire, whether it's an accountant, a lawyer, or a photographer? Your headshot is going to be the primary marketing image for you on all of your marketing materials, on LinkedIn, on Casting Workbook, on all your socials, your business card, beside every single MLS listing. There's your photo. Why wouldn't you hire a professional to make you look professional? Professionals hire professionals. If you're a professional photographer, please consider subscribing to this channel for more videos like this. But if you found value in this video at all, please give it a thumbs up. I really would appreciate it. It helps me out a lot. And it also helps YouTube know that this is the type of video that you want to see. In the meantime, please check out this video right here. I think you'll find it very helpful.